How do I find a new job? How can I make a career change? And the biggest question of all, can I really find a career that I love? Hey, my name is Jen Smith, and I believe career success doesn't have to be at the expense of living a radiantly happy and healthy lifestyle. As a former HR leader and recruiter turned career coach, I get what companies are looking for when hiring top talent. What that means for you is an unmatched combination of insider knowledge and the best kept secrets about making heart-based career changes and navigating the ups and downs of job searching in today's world of work. Whether you're a recent graduate navigating the job market for the first time or a seasoned professional ready for a career change, this show is for you. So grab your coffee or your kombucha, pull up a seat, and get ready to be challenged and inspired to move beyond your self-doubt and take the right next steps towards landing a career you love. Because you deserve a long, radiantly happy and healthy career. This is the Flourish Careers Podcast. Hello, and welcome back to the Flourish Careers Podcast. I'm Jen Smith, your host, and I'm thrilled to have you here for this compelling season dedicated to the inspiring stories featured in the book, Brave Women at Work, Lessons in Letting Go. Each week, we'll spotlight an extraordinary woman as she shares her path of courage, resilience, and growth. These are stories that will move you, challenge you, and reaffirm the beauty of evolving through letting go. Today, I am honored to have Marilyn Vetter with me. Marilyn became the CEO of Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever in February 2023 when her professional and personal worlds combined. Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever is the nation's leading organization committed to conserving upland birds and wildlife through habitat improvement. Marilyn leads a passionate team while amplifying awareness of their critical work. In her first 2 years, her and her team shattered every organizational record, including revenue growth, membership, restored lands, and educational outreach. Her professional background also includes 30 years of strategic leadership, business management, and political advocacy in the biopharmaceutical sector. She has also been a board member for several nonprofits. And when Marilyn's not working, she enjoys traveling, writing, hiking, and hunting with her husband and their German short-haired pointers. I am thrilled to have her here with us today for this discussion and to share her story. Marilyn, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So your chapter is called Chasing Contentment. And for those who haven't had the opportunity to read the book, can you share a little bit about your chapter?
Absolutely. You know, I actually toyed with the name of From Chaos to Contentment because I had for a long time really felt like I was living in chaos. And I think that chaos was driven by the fact that I was not living my ethos. And when I think about from the very beginnings, you know, I was raised by Depression-era parents. And when you grow up in that sense of scarcity and that scarcity mindset, it really impacts everything you do. And I really had no idea how much it impacted me till far, far later in life. But it created this sense of fear in me, of fear of not having enough money, fear of not having another job, fear of pretty much just everything. And it really drove my mindset. And my parents, because of what they had experienced, their resolve in life was that hard work was always the answer, which is what they taught all of us, which quite honestly served most of their kids really, really well. But there are side effects to that. So that's what my chapter is about. It's a recount of that revelation that I had that my work ethic really had become an addiction to me. I'd become addicted to success, to that approval from others, because I've really had to lean into the space that I'm a people pleaser. And that, quite honestly, I became addicted to the chaos of nonstop work. And now there's so much more research that talks about that addiction to cortisol, which I think probably was a big driver of that dopamine hit of, hey, you're doing great work. Can you do more work? And it just reinforced that work ethic that had come through all of that time with my parents. And, you know, I guess the good news is that I found a way out of that after 30 years. So that's what my story is how did I escape that enslavement that I had trapped myself in, thinking that work ethic would solve everything?
I can feel this in my core. It's that worthiness and that success and that badge of honor and the feedback that you're getting from your employer about how great you're doing and how much they appreciate the 16-hour days and all the extra effort and the results that you see from that. And that just kind of forces you to continue. And especially when it's in the generational layers as well. That's what you've seen growing up. And then that's all you know. And that's what you do until you can't do it anymore, quite frankly. So
you do. You become depleted, exhausted,
right.
Which is where I ended up.
Yeah. Marilyn, one of the things that you shared in your chapter that really stood out, the average 3 to 5 hours of sleep for years. My heart was like hurting. I can't even imagine that alone, let alone doing that for as many years as you did until you realized it wasn't time to live to work anymore, right?
Right. And it's funny because every now and then that happens. If you have an early morning flight, can't fall asleep the night before.
Yes.
And one of the big differentiators for me when I left and jumped off the hamster wheel was, for the first time in over 30 years, I was experiencing a whole night's sleep.
Oh.
And now that I have it, I can't even contemplate how I did it, how I spent 3 to 4 nights a week, because I would travel. Usually I'd get on a 5 a.m. flight on a Monday morning and get home about midnight on Thursday. I can't do it anymore.
No.
I'm sure certainly my age has probably impacted that. But honestly, now I know what it feels like to be a normal functioning human being. I see the benefits of my clarity of thought.
Mm-hmm.
I am a better leader. I'm a better person. I'm most certainly a better wife and friend than I was when I was in that completely depleted state. And I wish I'd seen it sooner, because I think I would have been better at all of those things a lot earlier in my life than I ended up being. But that's okay. Time teaches us many things.
It certainly does. And I'm so grateful that you share the story with all of our readers and the listeners here, so that maybe if they're in that, they can notice it a little bit earlier as well. So now, what inspired you to share this story with Brave Women at Work? And I know you also wrote for Lessons in Confidence. So tell us a little bit about how that came together.
So I know Hope, who is obviously as the publisher and the editor for the book and for the book series. And she had come to me on the Confidence book, the anthology, the first time around. And I really had to think about that one, because it was, as I even stated in the chapter, it was for me a bit of a vexing topic. I say a recovering people pleaser. I was always very outside focused. My efforts were to make sure that everybody else was happy, that they were happy with me, that they liked me. I was always focused on that. And quite honestly, confidence is an inside job. And I think what I think is so dramatically different about the two chapters is that I did a lot of research for that confidence chapter, and I learned a lot by doing it. And I felt like I learned as much, or perhaps more, than the readers did in that process, about how confidence is built, how it's impacted, and how you can help other people build their own confidence. Mm-hmm. So when Hope came to me for the Letting Go anthology, this one was different for me. I was in the middle of a million projects at work. It was one of those, like, if I'm really going to live into my space where I don't commit to too much, I probably shouldn't do this. And my head was saying, don't write it. But my heart was saying, I had to write this story. I had to let other people know that normalization of burnout is not healthy, and that we can recover from it. And I have seen men and women both just go crazy with their work hours. And I felt like I needed someone to say that that's not okay. And I had a conversation with a young man on my team last week who was feeling pretty exhausted. And I said to him, I'm just going to remind you that yes, you can burn a candle from both ends. It burns very brightly, but not for very long. And that was why I felt like I had to tell the story, is because if we don't create our own boundaries and our own checks and balances, nobody else will.
Yes, I am so grateful that you followed your heart and that tug to write this story. I have chills when you're talking about that and sharing it with your team member. And I agree. And we haven't had that many role models that openly share like the raw insides that happens when you do burn that candle at both ends. And I know you mentioned in your book the Ariana Huffington story, and that's one of the role models that I've seen out there that's living it with her new business and everything else when she fell flat on her face, quite frankly, in exhaustion, from overwork. And so I just think the more people that can share these stories, the more we can start accepting it. And then leaders like you, which we're going to talk about in a minute too, but leaders like you can instill that in your team, which is such a gift for your team that they probably don't even realize yet, but they will.
And I'm so glad you brought up Ariana Huffington. What a courageous thing for her to say, I too am going to stop doing this. And then she completely transformed her business. But think about it. For those that don't know the story, Ariana Huffington broke her cheekbone, if I recall the story correctly, by falling asleep from sheer exhaustion. And she basically smashed her face into her desk.
Yeah.
Just think about how exhausted her brain was to just finally say, we're turning you off, lights out.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. I mean, that we would ever contemplate pushing ourselves that hard for a paycheck is pretty incredible.
It really is. There's so much, tied to that. But then the fact she's talking about it and sharing and starting Thrive Global, her company that now puts all the things into place for companies and their employees to not do that. So we're grateful for these stories. Now, can you take us back to the moment, speaking of moments, when something shifted, can you take us back to the moment that something shifted inside of you as you confronted this work addiction?
I'm so glad you used the word shift. And I'm really surprised that there is one moment in time in particular that really shifted for me. I knew that there were some pretty dramatic changes coming at work. I could feel it. I could feel myself not really resonating with the pace anymore. But I was fighting it. I was fighting it hard because I didn't want to face the fact that perhaps I didn't fit there anymore. And I think most of us, we want to continue to try to make things work. You want to leave on your own terms. You want to feel like you left with everything off the to-do list and the inbox empty, which is unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
But when I think about post-COVID, I had finally on Christmas of 2022 had a really lovely Christmas with my siblings and some of their kids. And it was the first time that I felt like I really took a step back and turned off email for a couple of days and had a really nice holiday. And I woke up the day after Christmas and I felt like I was at peace. And so when you'd say the word shift, I felt for a long time I was standing on a fault line, trying to anticipate where the earthquake and when the earthquake was going to happen. And we can't control that. We don't know when it's going to happen. And when I woke up that morning, I was like, you know what? It's going to happen. Whatever happens, happens. I'm going to find a way to deal with it. And I just really became at peace with it. And I knew at that moment that I felt like I was missing too much in my life, that I was giving up time with, and I'm the youngest of 7.
Oh, wow.
And I'm giving up time, and my parents are gone. So I want to spend time with my siblings and my nieces and nephews and their children. And I woke up with the resolve that I'm going to chart my path forward. So I picked up a journal and really started just making a list of all of the things I needed to prepare myself for a departure of that life. And so I just became very logical about it. Computer, make sure I have my contacts, all of those things that you need to set up, make sure that your benefits. I just became very transactional about it, took the emotion out of it. And instead of acting like a victim or feeling like a victim of it, I took control. And when I took control, my anger faded. And it really gave me a renewed sense of creating a life filled with joy and experiences that I wanted. And truly, that was the day I let go.
Wow. I love this for so many reasons. And one of the words that's just coming up as you were saying that is the presence that you felt that holiday season with your family and noticing it, because you've probably been there, I've been there, where you're not even in the room. You're there, but your head's not even in the room because you're thinking about what I got to do tomorrow at work, or what's, piling up on my inbox. It's almost just like this autopilot sensation. Yeah. But when you pause and actually feel the presence of your family in the holiday and notice that joy, something changes, and obviously something shifted in you. And I am obsessed with the fact that you said that you felt that peace and then used that to propel you forward. That's really profound. Most people that I work with that want to make a career change are running away from something. So they're like, oh, this doesn't fit. I'm running away from it. Like, I just need to get to the next thing. I don't even care what it is. And they're in this kind of chaotic scarcity, like just wheels running constantly mindset, where you had this moment of presence and peace and then made the decision, took the emotion out of it, and then checked the boxes. So
it's so funny that you say that, because I had the exact same conversation with somebody last week. They're like, I'm at my wit's end. I need to make a shift. I'm going to go look for a new job. And same thing. They were exhausted. And I really encouraged them and to think through, what is it? How did you find yourself here? What is your internal driver? I knew what mine was people pleasing and worthiness. How did you get yourself here? Because if you don't know why you ended up there, you will just recreate it at the next place.
Another pattern.
And I did the same things. I would be like, I'd be so exhausted. I'd be like, I have to go somewhere else because they'll have more resources, or I'll have less on my to-do list, or whatever that fallacy that I created in my own head. And guess what? After 6 months, I'd earned the same reputation. She'll always say yes to another project, stir up her ego a little bit and she'll do more work for you. Whatever that false narrative that you have in your head, if you don't change it, it's just going to end up repeating itself. And so I always tell people, force yourself to stay in it to long enough to evaluate it. Never run away. I've made that mistake way too many times. Always run towards the light.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I say this all the time. Like, what are you running towards? We need to get you running towards something versus away from something. And listeners, that guidance to pause and reflect and evaluate how you got here is so critical, because that's what will happen. You will just go somewhere else and repeat the same exact thing. And Marilyn, that 6 months, I have been there multiple times myself. It's like, okay, I'm just going to change industries, or I'm going to go to this place. Like, they seem like they've got it together. No, they don't. It's you. And that 6 month mark, it's always that 6 month mark. We're like, oh my gosh, what did I do? But it isn't until you pause and reflect and figure out what you need to be running towards is when something shifts. So,
I'm so glad that you're giving lots of people that good advice, because when they do that, they will be so much better for themselves and for their employer when they actually go to something that they want to do. And I do think that I think back, part of that scarcity mindset was, I have to stay in a place where my paycheck is bigger, or I have, some long-term investment in it that's going to turn into, money is the biggest driver for so many of us, particularly I think when you're young and you're in your early stages of your careers. And I have the luxury of being further along in my career than most. But for too long, I use that as a rationale and an excuse for, well, you have to stay here. You have to stay here. No, you can learn to either live with less or find out that you just live with more, and it's not always money. It's joy and good health and the things that you deny yourself when you don't face those demons.
Yeah. And you're chasing those external factors like the title or the paycheck or whatever that might be. And I always like folks to reflect on enough. Like, what does enough mean for you? Because it doesn't always need to be more. And you're right. There are so many other things like health and family and being present for the holidays that really matters in life. And you think about, some of your story, the word legacy was coming up too, because you don't want to leave the legacy of, the workaholic. You want to leave the legacy of making a difference and being there for your friends and family when it mattered most. And so just some food for thought, I guess, as people are listening here.
Absolutely. A very profound book, if you haven't read it, and I know lots of people have, it's The 5 Regrets of the Dying.
Oh, yeah.
And it's true. No one ever on their deathbed says, God, I wished I'd spent one more late night at the office.
Right.
I really wished I had taken those chances, gone on the trip, asked the person out on the date.
Yes,
all of those things that we deny ourselves. Like, we put joy last on our list.
It's so sad.
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense.
Life is short. It's fleeting. It's fragile.
Mm-hmm.
And to deny ourselves and the people around us to experience joy because of work, it sounds foolish, but there's very many of us that get trapped in that. For sure.
And it's you think about the United States. I think you even wrote this. Like, we're in a world that glorifies overwork, at least in the US. I think there are some places in Europe that, aren't as wild as we are here, but it really does. It glorifies overwork. And I'm hopeful that narrative is starting to shift. It seems like maybe it is a little bit, but we need stories like this to continue and leaders like you to continue to share the narrative of joy. And that's really what life is about. Speaking of leaders, after stepping away from the chaos, you chose to lead Pheasants forever and Quail forever. So how do you ensure that this leadership role, a CEO leadership role, which is a huge role, won't pull you back into old patterns?
So I knew that I would have to really be disciplined with myself, because just because it's a nonprofit doesn't mean it's not a big role and can be a consuming role. And so I knew that I had to approach this differently than in the past, and that I would have to be so much more disciplined around my boundaries so that I could stay grounded in what I really wanted to accomplish. And a few of the things that I really focused on that were different was that I wanted to focus on a career that was more personally aligned with my ethos, that I wanted to be surrounded by people that were pursuing their passion, and that they wanted to not only do the work, but wanted to be with each other in the work, and really being in that space where we're also doing work that is good for the earth.
Yeah.
And I'm a farm kid, grew up with dirt under my nails, so be able to be back into a space where we're thinking about something much bigger than ourselves, or a quarterly earnings report was super important to me. I also wanted to be in a space where leadership, the way I envision leadership, was valued and could really help reinforce and build on a culture that struck a balance between the customer and the employee. Because I really believe that when team members feel they're respected, valued, cared for, that they're going to treat their customers the same way. And it's a much more holistic environment. It gives you a lot more durability in an organization that can last and withstand some really difficult times. And quite honestly, we're living that time right now. We're really in this space where could and how could we be impacted by changes at the federal level?
Right.
And what I've been able to witness amongst this team is, even when they may feel their particular job is fragile, they are rallying around each other. They're donating vacation time to others that get furloughed. They're at the same time, we have an employee that his family is going through a really difficult health issue with someone in the family, and they're still donating dollars for that. It's a culture of caring, which I think is too often overlooked in the corporate world, and it's short-sighted. And I also wanted to say to myself that I needed to invest in my health and myself, because that set a much better example for the people on this team. I think that the downstream side effect of me being a workaholic in the past is probably creating other workaholics, or making people feeling like, well, God, my boss is working on the weekends and every night. And if she's doing it, that I need to be doing it, even though I could say 1,000 times, you might catch me working, you don't have to do that. People still feel like they have
They
to.
do.
And every now and then, I'm not going to lie, we all have to check email here and
of
then.
Course, yeah.
There might be a Saturday morning that I need to spend some time on it, or I'm going to be doing some traveling. But that's not my norm anymore.
Yeah.
And that was important to me, to not only work in that kind of environment, but to establish it. And people learn to really evaluate what is mission critical and what's not.
Yes. One of the things that you said here and that I pulled from your chapter was a quote that says, very simply but profound, I wanted a chance to do it differently. So you're living that, because I think you had a stat in there around the CEO's average work week is like 62 and a half hours or something wild like that, right? And then you stepping into this role have the chance to do it differently, and you are doing it differently. And I think that is just so incredibly profound. And the other thing that you shared with me that I just wrote down here is the word care. I mean, that really stood out to me. And why? Because there are so many organizations that don't care for their employees in that really heartfelt, real way. I heard a story recently. I was talking with some friends and they were saying about how, like the bosses' offices around like the area, like the cubicle area, the bosses are leaving their light on and like papers on their desk, sneaking out to go to their kids' game, but they want to pretend like they're still at work. Like, what?
That's insane.
Why? Like, just shut your light off and go to your kid's game. That's giving permission to everybody to go to their kid's game, right? So like you were saying, like, to me, that's just mind-blowing.
And what? We're ashamed that we're investing in our family as opposed to, being enslaved to a job full time. One of the things I think the benefit, if there is any benefit that could come from such a catastrophe like COVID, was that people reevaluated what was the most important in their life. And for a lot of people, it was that time of, you just never know when it's your time in the tumbler. And all of a sudden life has changed dramatically and you're full of regrets. Mm-hmm. If your number's up, you don't get to fix those kinds of things. Yeah. So you bet when I leave, my door is open, my light is off, and my desk is clean because and as I'm walking out, I'm like, you're not going to be here long, are you? Are
time to shut down.
Yes, because I want people to not resent their work. And I will tell you that I was resentful for a really long time. And I had to come to the terms with the fact that nobody created that environment more than me.
Exactly. Because you're not going to get fired for leaving at 4:00 to go to your kid's soccer game. Let's be real.
No.
And if you do, then you don't want to be working there anyway.
It's probably time to look for something else.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. I feel like I could talk to you forever about these things. I love that we have the same mindset around this type of, I would say, heart-based leadership. Now let's talk about, I want to hear how you now define success. So once success was this badge of honor tied to overwork and exhaustion. So now, how do you define success?
Quite honestly, I try to evaluate it on how well I'm taking care of myself. So when I'm here and I'm not traveling, I get up at 5 and go to the gym, because if I don't do it in the morning, I don't get it done. And for a long time, I just didn't do it. And I rationalized in my head that, well, of course, I don't have the time for it. And which really says to the world that I'm so important that I need to not take care of myself. So I've really had to check that. So my days when I get to the gym, I feel so much better because I'm allowing myself to do what's right for me, which creates the pace for everybody here to do the same. Yeah. And so that's super important. Connection to my family. For a long time, I think my family just thought, she'll come around when she has time. And now I'm the one that's leaving voicemails and text messages and, When we go back to North Dakota to see family, it's organizing the family holiday dinners because I can't get those memories back that I didn't get to experience, but I can make new ones.
No.
So I'm taking the time to do that. I'm traveling. And quite honestly, success for me anymore is about working with a team of people that are as committed to each other and each other's success as they are to their own.
Right.
And I think that is the greatest determiner of a high performing team is how invested they are in each other as they are themselves. And to watch people flourish when they feel like they can do that is pretty profound. And if you've never been on a high performing team that has that definition, find one or build one.
Yes.
Because you will never, ever regret it. And when people ask me, have you ever been on an exceptional team? I know instantly who my leader was, what his strengths were, and who my peers were, and what I gained from that.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. And then think about the results that follow from that, right? So you have a team that's all working together, mission driven, looking out for each other, caring for each other with their own boundaries, maybe prioritizing themselves first, but caring for each other in the mission of the organization. The results that follow that will be extraordinary no matter what. So
you can't stop success.
No, you definitely
not
can't.
In that kind of environment.
No way.
It's bound to happen. I've never seen it not happen when people work together.
Yeah. And you leading by that example is they are lucky to have you.
Well, I feel pretty darn blessed to be here. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I love this. Now, as we kind of wrap up here, for those who are caught in a cycle of overwork, what would you recommend the first step that they would take in kind of reclaiming their life?
I think the first step really is to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes the hardest thing. So when you think about addiction, a side note, one of the things that I learned in talking to someone about my chapter is like, do you know what addicti means? And I'm like, no. He said, it's a Latin root word for enslavement and losing voice. So I think it's that losing connection to yourself. So I do think it's really, really important. And there's a couple of questions that I put in the back of my chapter that I encourage people to ask themselves. So I'm going to just read a couple of them.
Love it.
Is the quantity of your work recognized more than the quality of your work? Is your current work pattern serving your mental and physical health? And then there were a couple of questions that came from just a profound book by Arthur Brooks called From Strength to Strength. And I won't read all of them, but one of them that was really instrumental for me when the light bulb turned on was, this one sounds kind of crazy, but if you're a workaholic, you'll know exactly what I mean. Do you sneak around to work? For example, when your spouse leaves the house on a Sunday, do you immediately turn to work and then put it away before she or he returns so that it is not apparent what you were doing?
Wow.
I did it all the time.
Oh my goodness.
And so the second part of being honest is being honest with the people around you.
Yeah.
And that one was hard for me to admit that I was indignant about. I know I have to work this many hours and having to admit to others that, yes, I did leave you behind. I took you for granted. All of those things, it was a really hard thing to do, but it was the best thing I ever did. And then I think you have to decide if you want to create a new normal, what does that look like for you?
Mm-hmm.
And can you do it where you're at?
Right.
What kind of supervisor do you have that you can sit down and say, hey, I this is not working for me anymore.
Right.
And I'd love to find a way to do it here. And I'm going to ask your help because I need to find a way to not feel depleted. I need to find a way to be able to be productive here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to do a couple of things over the next few months, and I need you to be prepared for them. Mm-hmm. So when you come to me with a new project, I might say, can I think about that? Because if you allow yourself 24 hours you will not immediately say yes and get the dopamine hit of, oh, cool, they asked me. Because you allow yourself to cool off a bit. You'll say, yeah, but then I'm going to miss my kids' soccer games. I'm going to miss my daughter's basketball tournament out of town. Whatever it is, you will have had time to let the emotion deplete out of that situation and say, I'm really flattered, but this doesn't work for me right now. Or can it be done next month? Or if it's necessary, well, what can I take off my plate? Or let's talk about who else might be able to do that. Or how could we divvy that work up? Because we always just rush to yes. And rushing to yes always leaves you at the back of the stage. And it's just super hard to come forward. So you have to be able to have a supervisor that will hear that.
Right.
If you don't think you can, then you have to envision what it is that you want out of a place of work. Can you do it? Or perhaps you start your own business. You become a consultant like you and so many others that have said, I want to define what work can look like and help other people do that. But again, that warning of if you're going to do it somewhere else, be really deliberate about reinventing yourself.
Yes.
So that you don't wake up 6 months, a year into it and go, dang it, I brought all that, bad luggage with me.
Yes, that awareness is so key on multiple fronts. And the language that you just shared here is gold. So listeners, if you are in this situation and are ready to have that conversation with your supervisor, rewind and write down the language that Marilyn just shared with you, because that's really what it's about. It's about noticing, pausing, and then having a conversation about it. And if it's not going to work out, pause again and figure out what is going to work out so you can stop that pattern, that constant pattern that we were talking about earlier. So
great advice.
Yeah.
It's amazing how a simple pause can change how you look at things.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And I just have to share this because it came into my mind. My mom popped into my mind as you were talking, and she always told me, do nothing. So like if I call her, something crazy's happening, she's Jen, just do nothing. Just give it a pause, do nothing, and sleep on it, and then respond tomorrow. And that's the reaction versus the responding. There's something to be said for that. And you're not going to get in trouble for not responding right away or reacting right away. It's okay to think about things.
Oh my God. Honestly, you're going to get in trouble when you do.
Yes.
You're going to dig the hole so much deeper when you respond out of anger or fear, unless it's pure joy.
Right. The hell yes, I say. If it's a hell yes, then...
like, do you want to leave early today? I honestly, that just governing yourself, some self-regulation about giving yourself space, and just that simple, can I think about that? Yeah. I'd really want to make sure that I'm approaching this with the right mindset, and I appreciate and I'm flattered by the invitation, but I really have to think about it. That also shows a huge leap of maturity.
Oh, yeah.
That if you're a supervisor, you really respect that person is evaluating their whole life, not just their work life.
Yes, absolutely. And how can you not value that in someone?
Right. Marilyn, because then they're going to last longer and they're going to be a better team member all their entire time.
And share that with others. So you create that ripple effect, which is just what you're doing and sharing your story and all of this wisdom with us today. So thank you so much. I love your energy. Your heart-based leadership is so needed in this world. So thank you so much for the courage to follow your heart and to share this story with us today.
Well, you're welcome. And thank you for not only elevating my story, but so many important stories to the women of this career path that they're all on. And I really appreciate the messages that you put out to your audience. They're very valuable.
Thank you, Marilyn. That's very kind of you. Now, I have a feeling that people might want to connect with you after this conversation. So where can they find you? Out on the interwebs, I always say.
LinkedIn is by far my most favored platform and very easy to find. Marilyn Vetter. I was an early adopter, so I'm easy to find.
Perfect. And we'll make sure that link is in the show notes here. So Marilyn, thank you again for joining us. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope the stories in this series serve as a powerful reminder that careers are rarely easy or linear. It's the courage to let go and embrace the unknown that shapes our paths. Every career story has the potential to inspire and connect us in the most unexpected and meaningful ways. I'm certain Marilyn's story inspired you, and I know you'll love the book. So help us spread the message of letting go. Grab your copy of Brave Women at Work, Lessons in Letting Go today. And don't miss next week's episode where we'll hear from another fabulous author sharing her story of letting go. I'll talk to you next time.